Hey everyone, welcome back for another video. My name is Tanya for those of you that are new here, and I'm a watercolor and acrylic artist. So today's video I'm going to show you how to paint a coneflower in acrylics. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so to get started, I've got my 4x4 canvas. I've got different colors of paint on here. I'll let you know what color I'm using as I'm going along. And I've got different size brushes here, and the ones that I'm going to be using the most today are the filbert brushes. And if you're not familiar with those, when you're painting florals, the filbert brushes are a little bit easier because they're a little bit rounded. They're not as, they don't have the corners like the flat brushes do. They're a little bit rounded in the corners there, and it's easier to paint petals and leaves with these brushes. So I'll let you know what size I'm using as I'm going along. All right, but first, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be painting my background. And since we're painting, I'm going to be doing kind of purplish color coneflowers today, so I'm going to do more of like a yellow-orange background. So I'm just going to dip my brush in water, dab it off on my paper towel, and then I'm just going to grab a little bit of my yellow and a little of my orange together on my paintbrush, and I'm going to start mixing those together. If you want to bring in a little bit of white, if you want it a little bit lighter, you can, and it's going to start giving you this peachy color. And I love that, and I also really love when you see the brush strokes right on the canvas. So I usually pick up, see, I just picked up more yellow and white. I just pick up 2 or 3 colors on my brush at the same time, and I let them mix right on my canvas. I like that look. I usually don't mix colors on my palette because then you're just going to get one solid color and it looks a little bit flatter, unless that's the look you're trying to achieve. But I like when colors just mix and blend right on your canvas. See how it's a little bit darker orange up here and then it's a little bit lighter yellow down there? So I like that look. But you don't have to do it this way if you don't want to. So go ahead and paint all your sides. It doesn't really matter what size canvas you have if you're painting along with me. So whatever you're painting on the sides, make sure it kind of matches with the top. So I'm bringing in some of this yellow and white. I'm going to bring in a little bit of my orange too over here on this side because I've got orange on my canvas on that side. And then if it's not completely matching, just wrap it around on the top a little bit. Just feather it in so that your sides and your top all match. There you go. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and dry that, and then we can start our flower. Okay, so my canvas is pretty dry, and I see that my brush strokes are kind of in a diagonal motion. So just kind of position, if yours are the same way, kind of in a diagonal motion, just kind of see how you want your flower to be. If you want the diagonal to go down or up, so it just depends. But I think I'm going to keep it like this. I kind of like it on an angle going to the right. All right, so, and I forgot to tell you what colors I was using. I used a brilliant yellow and a brilliant red and just a titanium white to achieve this background. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up my size 8 filbert brush, and I'm going to pick up my brilliant blue, and it's just going to be an underlayment of the coneflower. Since I'm doing a purple coneflower, blue and red make purple, so I'm just going to do an underlayment of the blue. So I'm just going to do, I think I want my coneflower kind of on a diagonal. So I'm going to make the little round part up here, the middle part of the flower. Over here, more in the right, the upper hand right corner. And if you hear that noise in the background, I apologize. It's my dog eating a bone. And she's having a good time. So I'm not going to stop her. All right, so there is the blue. And I'm just going to start making some of the petals. So I want some of the petals to kind of come down. I'm going to start with the middle one here. And I'm just going to be placing them on where I want these petals to be. If you want to do it with a smaller brush, you could definitely do that. I'm just going to keep it as my size 8. Like that, okay? And we can always go in and adjust some of these later. And I'm just gonna go in and maybe put some little petals peeking out from underneath. Here and there, not on all of them, but just a couple. And then I'm gonna do my stem. So you kind of want to eyeball where your stem is going to be, kind of from the middle of the flower, and it's going to come down like this. And then wrap your side. If you want to wrap your side, go for it. If you are choosing to just paint because I'm using a thicker canvas, if you choose to just paint your canvas like a color on the sides, that's fine too. But if you're going to actually bring your painting down on the sides, then make sure you wrap it. All right. Now I have a violet on my palette, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take up my red first, my brilliant red, and I'm going to start filling in my petals. While my blue outline is still wet, I'm going to mix in the red and the blue, and it's going to give kind of this dark purpley color. Now that's not the color I want my coneflower to be, but it's just going to be the underlayment of my flower, the first coat. Because again, the red and blue make purple, so that's what I'm going to end up using anyways, is some of my violet. But I'd like to get those two colors on my canvas first. And I'm just going to fill it in, and I'm not being too careful because this is just the first layer. I'm just really trying to get coverage at this point. Okay. And you can leave some of that blue outline that we did at the beginning. You can leave some of that peeking through because that's going to be really nice to see when we're done with the painting. I'm going to get a little bit more red on my palette here. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of white now, just to kind of lighten up some of these petals. And you're going to see it's kind of making a mauve color once that white and that blue and red mix. It kind of makes a mauve color. Some are going to be a little bit bluer. Some are going to be a little bit more mauve. Just depends on how much paint I had on each petal. If I had a little bit more red to start or if I had a little bit more blue to start. So you can see I'm starting to get that purpley color already. But again, this is not the purple that I'm going to be ending with. I just want to get a couple different layers of colors on my canvas, like that. Okay. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash off my brush. And I'm going to start working. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. And I'm going to start working on some of my greenery. So I've got a green and a yellow here. And I know that I made that blue first because I do want an underlayment of blue, which is totally fine. But I'm going to do green and yellow, and I'm going to mix it and get this limey color. And I'm just going to bring it down. But see how I have some of that blue still peeking through? It's just kind of like a shadowed area. I like that. I'm going to bring a little bit more blue, like right under the petal here. So it looks a little bit more like a shade under that petal. Okay. I'm going to switch over to my, I believe this is a size 0. I don't know, I can't really read that. Yeah, I think it says 0. Anyways, I'm going to use a really small little brush. And I'm going to start making some little stems coming out. And I'm using green, I'm using blue, I'm using yellow, I'm using all of them. You can even put a little white in here if you want to. And I'm just going to put some stems peeking out here and there, just so I know where some of my leaves are going to go. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put in a couple, like, almost like there's stems in the background for other flowers. So just kind of eyeball it through the flower, bring it down, wrap your canvas. And wrap your canvas on the top as well. Okay. And I think I want maybe another stem coming this way. So eyeball it going through your canvas. Boom, boom, boom. And then wrap your canvas again. Okay, and then make sure you wrap it up on top. Still following that angle. And then I'm going to do a couple little stems coming off those as well. Like that. Just depends on how many leaves you want. I'll do a leaf over here. I'll do maybe a leaf coming out this way, so I'll do a little stem there. And then we're gonna wrap other little leaves around our canvas as well. All right, so that's what I've got going on so far. All right, so we are gonna go ahead and we're gonna pick up with our filbert again, number 8. I'm just mixing some green and yellow, and I'm gonna start putting in some leaves. So I'm using, there's the wide way of the brush and the thin way of the brush. At first I'm using the thin way to make that little point, and then I'm just twisting the brush in my fingers so that it wraps around and it just makes, it goes to the wider side when I get to the bottom of the leaf. So again, thin, and then I'm wrapping it around and I'm starting to use the thicker part of the brush. Okay, and you can add a little more yellow on there if you want that to get a little bit more yellow. All right, and let's go ahead and do this leaf. Now there's going to be leaves overlapping each other, just how I placed the stems. Let's pick up a little bit more blue for maybe, let's do a blue leaf down here. Well, it's still going to be a green leaf, but it's going to have a little bit darker tones to it. Okay, try and get that nice and rounded out. All right. And then, so those are a little bit wider leaves. I'm going to start doing some skinnier leaves. So I'm just going to kind of put on some skinny ones like that and twist. I just twisted. I'll do that again with yellow this time, right over the green. I'm twisting the brush in my hand and I'm just kind of tapering off as I go. Okay, so it's going to make some skinnier leaves too. And let's do another one coming this way. Okay. And let's do, we could do some peeking out like they belong to other flowers. Put a little yellow in there. And I think I want a little more, I'm gonna make those a little bit darker in a minute. But this is just my first coat. All right, let's go ahead and put one down here, attached to this little stem. Okay. And we have one coming this way. We're gonna overlap it. So I overlapped it with some more yellow there so you can see that. All right, we're gonna let those dry a little bit, clean off our brush. We're gonna go back to our flower. All right, so let's go back and pick up some of that violet that I had done. So our petals kind of dried nicely right now. Now we're gonna go start and bring in some of that violet color that I had on my palette. So see how it's nice and you have the underlayment of the reds and the blues and the whites, but now you're just popping in a little bit of that violet right on top. And you can use as much as you want or as little as you want. I'm not covering up my whole petal because I still want those other colors to peek through. If you want to add a little white to lighten it up in certain areas, you can. Just to make your petals pop a little bit more. So I am going to work on that center part a little bit. And I'm going to bring it up a little bit more because coneflowers have that nice big center. So I'm just going to take my blue again and I'm going to make it more of like a cone. That's why it's called a coneflower, because it's got this nice big cone at the top. All right, bring that down. You can even peek that blue through if you want to. Okay, so I am now gonna put that my blue is pretty much dry here. I'm gonna go ahead with my small brush and I'm gonna bring in some of my yellow. I'm just gonna dab it on. I still wanna see some of that blue underneath there. But it's got all this texture on the cone. It's all the seeds. Sometimes it looks yellow, sometimes it looks orange. So I'm gonna put a little bit of yellow on the top there, and then I'm gonna start bringing in some of this like reddish orange. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix a little yellow and a little red. I'm gonna get more of an orangey color because that was just too red for me. I'm gonna go over that again. There we go. Now I want it to stand out from that background though, so it's okay to have some of the red in there just to pop it from that background a little bit. And I want some of that blue still showing. And if we do cover up some of our blue and we want a little bit more, it's okay. Just let it dry and go in and put a little bit more blue. You can always add more with acrylic. That's the beauty of acrylic. I'm going to bring it up a little bit. Really pretty. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of that red to the outside here, just to punch it a little bit more in that background. Bring in a little bit here to there. And I think I'm going to bring in a little bit of red down here too. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and dry that, and then I might add a little bit more yellow at the top here. Okay, so I'm going to pick up on my yellow again, and I'm just going to go over some of the yellow I already have there just to deepen it up a little bit more. Maybe even go over some of that orange color that I did. Bring the yellow down a little bit. Okay. And I think I'm going to bring in a little bit of my blue. Just a little bit, and just darken up some areas here that maybe I need a little bit more blue between those little dots of all the seeds. And I'm going to do a little bit more of the blue towards the bottom of the flower, just so it looks like it's a little bit more shadowed down here. And let's bring some of that even down here. And if you have to cover up some of that orange just to shadow it a little bit, that's okay. Just to shade it up a little bit. Because you want to give this a 3D look. Okay, I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to go back in with some of my orange. But at this point, I'm going to give my petals another little layer. So I am going to bring in my violet again, deepen up some of my petals here. And maybe a little bit of white. And I'm just going back and forth between my violet and my white. Okay. I want these petals to kind of pop off the canvas, but I don't want to add too much white. So I'm going to go back in and add a little bit more violet. And you can play around with this as much as you want. Sometimes that's my problem. I don't know when to stop. I think that's a lot of artists have that problem, that they don't know when to stop. You just want to keep playing around with it. Beautiful. Really, really pretty. All right, I'm going to go back to that little part up here and add some more orange. I don't want to cover up as much blue. There, like that. And I'm going to add a little bit of white up here too, just to pop it off the canvas even a little bit more. Just a little bit of white like on the top there. Okay, really pretty. And I think it needs a little bit more red. All right, so I'm gonna go in and work my leaves again, now that they dried a little bit. And I'm gonna go ahead and just pick up my yellow and my green. A little more yellow than that. Okay, and I'm just gonna start bringing a little bit more definition to some of these leaves. If you want a little bit darker on one side, a little bit lighter on the other, always think about where maybe your light source is coming from so that your darks are on the same side of the leaves. Add a little yellow. You can even add a little red in there if you want to just, or even the orange color if you want to just tone it down a little bit. I'll show you what I mean. I'm adding a little bit of yellow. See how that kind of browns it up a little bit? If you want to just neutralize it a little bit more, you just want to tone down that green and that yellow, just bring in a little red or orange. And it will definitely tone it down for you. Okay. Do that to this one. And a little bit on this one. I just want to tone down that green a little bit. I'm gonna add a little bit of that red and orange. So you're just going to go back and forth and play around with it a little bit until it feels good to you. I think I'm going to add a little more yellow on this one. Lighten it up a little bit. Lighten this one up a little bit. Lighten this up a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of a highlight on the stem here. And I think I'm going to do a little yellow on this one up here too. One more yellow on that one. It's nice just to have a variety of color in here, so it's not just all green or all yellow or all blue. It's just, you've got a little bit of red, a little bit of orange, a little bit of yellow. It just makes your painting a little bit more interesting. Gives it more movement. Really pretty. And if you want, you could take your, if your stems are a little bit too green also, or dark, you can always go in with some of that mixture of the red, a little bit of red added in there, and you can always tone that green down a little bit. If you want to brighten it up, you can always add a little bit of yellow like that. Don't forget, whatever you do to the front, wrap it around. And I probably should have used my liner brush for these stems, but that's okay. If you have a liner brush, use your liner brush. You'll probably get smoother lines than I am right now. I just forgot to grab my liner brush before. And if you don't know what a liner brush is, it's a wonderful, wonderful brush. It's nice and thin, and it's long, and it holds a lot of paint, and you can get a nice, crisp, long line without losing too much of the paint on there too fast. So I recommend going to buy a liner brush if you don't have one of those. I just forgot to grab mine today. That's why my lines are looking a little bit rougher than they would. The liner brush would make these a little bit crisper, but that's okay. There. All right, that is looking beautiful. All right, what I think I want to do is I want to bring in a little bit more blue. And I'm going to bring in just a little bit of that blue coming down on my petals here, just to kind of define them a little bit more, with a little bit more shadow in there. So this is just that brilliant blue that I had brought in at the beginning. I'm just using my small little brush, and I'm just putting a little bit of blue here and there where I think maybe a shadow would be. Maybe like where the petals are overlapping. See how that just pops my petals a little bit more? There. Bring that up a little bit. Like that. And if you think you brought in too much, you can always let it dry. And then just bring in a little bit of your purple or your white right over it. I'm just going to bring in a little bit of that violet color, kind of right around where I did the blue. Just give it a little bit more definition. And this is just adding little finishing touches, that's all. It's nothing major. You didn't even need to do it if you really didn't want to. It's just adding little finishing touches. Really pretty. And if you want to pop it even a little bit more, you can even add a little bit more red in there too. I'm just going to add a little bit of red here and there. Not too much though, just a little bit. Just so you still see some of that red peeking through from the beginning. Really, really, really pretty. I love it. So I might go in and just touch up my leaves a little bit more, add a little bit more definition to them. But other than that, I think this is done. I think it turned out pretty good. Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you liked it and learned a little something. And if you did like it, please give me a thumbs up, and you can make a comment in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more videos like this one. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day. Bye.